Friends, let me tell you about the day my American dream almost turned into a living nightmare. After 30 years of working 2 jobs, saving every dollar I could, I finally held the keys to my very own home. Not a rental, not a lease, my home, bought and paid for. I remember standing on that front porch for the first time, looking at the tree-lined street, thinking about all those years of sacrifice that led to this moment. My grandmother always told me, "Honey, in America, if you work hard enough, you can own a piece of the dream." And there I was, living proof of her words. But as that moving truck pulled up to my driveway, something felt ... wrong. 3 people marched toward me with clipboards like they were conducting some kind of inspection. The woman leading them, let's call her Patricia, had this stern expression that could freeze water in July. "Excuse me?" she said, not even introducing herself. "Cannot move your belongings in until you've completed the neighborhood association paperwork." I stood there, keys still warm in my palm, thinking I must have misheard. "I'm sorry, what paperwork? I own this house. I have the deed right here." Patricia's smile was colder than a January morning. "That's irrelevant. Every resident must join our homeowners association. It's non-negotiable. No membership, no move-in." The audacity hit me like a slap. Here I was, a hard-working American who'd followed every rule, dotted every I, crossed every T, and strangers were telling me I couldn't enter my own home. "Ma'am," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, "I've reviewed all the legal documents with my attorney. This property has never been part of any homeowners association." Her eyebrows shot up like I'd just spoken a foreign language. "We'll see about that," she said, scribbling furiously on her clipboard while her 2 companions whispered behind her. That first night, I couldn't even enjoy unpacking. Every time I looked out my window, I felt like I was being watched. This was supposed to be my sanctuary, my reward for decades of hard work. Instead, I felt like a stranger in my own home. But they had no idea who they were dealing with. I didn't work 30 years to let anyone tell me what I could do with my own property. The next morning, I discovered a bright orange notice taped to my front door like some kind of scarlet letter. It was from something called the Neighborhood Standards Committee, demanding I register with their association within 48 hours or face daily fines of $500. $500 a day? For what? Owning my own home? I actually laughed out loud, but it was the kind of laugh you make when something is so outrageous, it's almost funny almost. When I stepped outside to water my new flower garden, something I'd dreamed of doing for years, Patricia appeared like she'd been waiting in the bushes. "You have until tomorrow evening," she announced. Like a town crier, comply with our regulations or face the consequences. This neighborhood has standards. I looked at her, then at my beautiful little house, then back at her. "Ma'am, with all due respect, the only standard I need to meet is being a good neighbor. I plan to take care of my property, respect others, and live peacefully. Isn't that what matters?" Her expression told me everything I needed to know. This wasn't about standards or community. This was about control. By afternoon, things got worse. My moving truck parked perfectly legally and my driveway had been decorated with a giant sticker claiming it was illegally parked and would be towed. That's when my neighbor Mark quietly approached while I was peeling off the sticker. He looked around nervously like he was afraid of being seen talking to me. "Listen," he whispered, "don't let them intimidate you. Your house isn't part of the HOA. I've lived here 15 years and I know the history. But Patricia, she's got a reputation. She makes life difficult for anyone who doesn't fall in line." I thanked Mark, but his warning only strengthened my resolve. My parents raised me to stand up for what's right, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. That evening, I sat on my porch, watching the sunset paint the sky. Across the street, I could see shadows gathering, people pointing at my house, whispering. It reminded me of those old Western movies where the townspeople plot against the new sheriff. But this wasn't the Wild West, and I wasn't backing down. By day 3, they'd crossed every line imaginable. I woke up to find my mailbox, the one I'd proudly installed myself, chained shut like Fort Knox. My trash cans were scattered across the lawn, and another fine notice was shoved under my door claiming I now owed them $1,500, $1,500 for the crime of what? Living in my own home? That morning, I did what every smart homeowner should do. I called my attorney. Within an hour, he was laughing at their official notices. These have no legal standing whatsoever, he chuckled. Your property was never part of any HOA. But if they're harassing you, we can put a stop to this right now. We drafted a cess letter that afternoon. Not mean-spirited or vindictive, just clear, factual, and firm. We cited property law, harassment statutes, and made it crystal clear that their intimidation tactics were legally unacceptable. I hand-delivered copies to Patricia and her committee members. I even posted one on my front door for the whole neighborhood to see. Transparency has always been my policy. When Patricia stormed over, waving that letter like it had personally offended her family, I met her on my front steps with quiet confidence. Patricia, I said calmly, I just want to be a good neighbor. But I won't be bullied or intimidated. This harassment stops now, or you'll be dealing with my attorney directly. Her face turned 3 shades of red. You can't do this? No one defies our authority. But for the first time, I saw something different in her eyes. Behind all that bluster and bravado, I saw fear. She knew she'd overplayed her hand. I'm not defying anyone, I replied. I'm simply exercising my rights as an American homeowner. Maybe it's time this neighborhood remembered what that means. The resolution came exactly 1 week later, and it was more dramatic than I ever expected. I was pulling into my driveway after work when flashing. Red and blue lights filled the street. 2 police cars parked right outside my house. For a moment, my heart raced. Had they actually filed false charges against me? But as the officers approached, the lead officer actually smiled. Sir, we received your attorney's formal complaint about harassment. We're here to serve these individuals with official warnings. Patricia and her committee members stood frozen on the sidewalk like deer in headlights. Their clipboards suddenly seemed very small and insignificant. The officer read them the cease and desist. Order loud enough for the whole neighborhood to hear, explaining that they had no legal authority over my property and that continued harassment could result in criminal charges. When the officer asked if I wanted to press charges immediately, I thought about my grandmother's words about being the bigger person. Officer, I just want to live peacefully in my home. If the harassment stops today, I'm willing to let this go and move forward. That was the moment everything changed. The spell was broken. Neighbors who had been watching from their windows for days finally came outside. Mark approached with his wife, both of them smiling for the first time since I'd moved in. Thank you, Mark's wife whispered. Someone needed to stand up to them. They've been making life miserable for everyone who didn't follow their made-up rules. Over the next few weeks, I learned the whole story. Patricia had been running this fake HOA scam for years, bullying elderly residents into paying dues they didn't owe, fining people for violations that weren't violations, and generally terrorizing anyone who dared to think for themselves. By month's end, Patricia quietly moved away. The neighborhood felt lighter, friendlier, more like the community I'd dreamed of joining. And me. I finally got to enjoy those sunset evenings on my porch, tending my garden. And living the American dream I'd worked 30 years to achieve. The lesson here, friends, isn't about fighting with neighbors or causing trouble. It's about knowing your rights, standing up for yourself respectfully but firmly, and never letting anyone bully you out of what you've rightfully earned. Sometimes the most important battles we fight are the ones that remind us what freedom really means. If you've ever dealt with difficult neighbors or HOA issues, share your story in the comments below.